Anthony Subtano here, the internet's most negative music nerd. I don't like the way you reviewed that album. I'm gonna unsub you. And it's time for a review of the new Angel Olsen record, My Woman. Singer-songwriter Angel Olsen, a young up-and-comer who stole my heart a little bit back in 2012 with some of the more fiery, passionate songs from that album she had dropped that year. Not a perfect record, but I will cut all of my limbs off if the song Waiting is not one of the better tunes of the decade. Angel was coming through on this track and on others with a strong voice, some sharp lyrics, which had me excited to hear whatever music she was going to be dropping in the future, which was not too far down the road, right around the corner. She got signed to the JAGJAGUWAR label, which I only thought would help her. But then when she finally came out with Burn Your Fire for No Witness, it wasn't really the aha moment I was hoping for. It was an Angel coming into her own based off of the sounds that she had given us thus far. Instead, this album was weighted down in a series of lo-fi, distorted, kind of garagey rock tracks that sounded like something some no-name band trying to sound like the next Best Coast or Vivian Girls would record. Then she matched these tracks with these long, arduous, sparse acoustic cuts that were just navel-gazing, didn't really have a strong sense of direction, and did not justify their 6, 5, or sometimes even 4-minute lengths. Angel still showed potential on this record, even though it wasn't as raw or as riveting or as folky as what was on her debut, and I was just kind of hoping to hear some of those sounds return on this latest album here. And that they do, but in a whole new way. To me, this album was kind of like listening to Angel Olsen again for the first time, but at a totally different angle. But I think the dynamic of this record is similar to her last record. You know, you have your hard, heavy, distorted tracks, and then you have your soft, gentle, elongated acoustic cuts. The tracks where Angel goes electric are a little more rough, a little more in the moment. They feel like they have some more nuance in there. They're not just kind of that generic lo-fi garage production. And her lyrics shine through a little bit more as well. I feel like vocally she's a bit more over the top and animated, especially on the stellar single Shut Up and Kiss Me, which features these buzzing, crunchy guitars, this romping drum beat, and vocals that shout and yelp and bellow. Angel is absolutely animalistic on this track. When she lets loose on this record, she lets loose. It might sound kind of sour or maybe tone deaf to some listeners, but I actually like the attitude that comes through on her voice. I think she swaps pitch for swagger on this album at a lot of spots, and it works. You know, she played it pretty reserved on her last record a lot of the time, and I think the results were mild. On this new one over here, she's just taking some risks, lighting some fires. The attitude is almost punky at points. Now, Angel is also capable of some tender moments as well on this record, like when she's reaching into her falsetto against the dreamy beds of synthesizers on the song INTERN, which kicks the record off. A song that is short, but I'm pretty enthralled with the lyrics about wanting to be somebody, make something of yourself, but then getting emotionally crushed in the rat race that we're all running. And then there are other tracks in the first half here that I think are also emotional riots. The song Never Be Mine, which features all these dramatically strummed acoustic guitars. The instrumental sounds like something out of the 60s or 70s, but it isn't trying so hard to force nostalgia down your throat. It has an old soul, but feels distinctly young. And in the lyrics here, and with her vocals as well, even if you weren't paying attention to the lyrics, the agony coming through in her voice. She's just very sorrowful about the fact that this person who she has in mind is just never going to be hers. The song Give It Up has some pretty interesting opening guitar chords that sound like something that could have been on a Nirvana record, but ultimately Angel comes to a different musical conclusion a few bars later, which is good because in 2016, we do not need another Nirvana ripoff. Instead, the warm bass on this track and the confident and raw guitars on here that are very stringy and trebly remind me of artists like the Velvet Underground, and there's kind of that 60s sheen on it that you would get on a Nancy Sinatra record. Also, you know, definitely a modern garage rock vibe again. And there's something about the vocal harmonies on this cut that kind of remind me of like 90s era, no doubt. The song Not Gonna Kill You has this kind of crazy built-up instrumental jam at some points. Like, the momentum of this track is so intense that it reminds me of like some psychedelic Jefferson Airplane type shit. But then this intensity is broken off all of a sudden with these more spacey instrumental passages with dramatic drum fills and Angel Olsen just beckoning out loudly into the space the instrumental has now created. Now at this point you're going to be facing down the kind of funny sequencing of the album, because all of the raw, aggressive, in-your-face tracks with a lot of attitude are in the first half, and then all of the slower, more acoustic and ballad type songs are in the second half. Here we see Angel embracing her folkier side, her more tender side, and it's not necessarily a bad point on the album, doesn't necessarily suck the momentum out of the record because she offers a bit of musical diversity across these tracks too. I like the very slow and seductive heart-shaped face with its lazy, elongated vocals. It does drag on a little bit, but I like that the performance feels really live and in the moment. Depending on my mood when I'm listening to the record, I can really get lost in the performance. The song Sister is longer, but somehow easier to swallow. Songwriting-wise, it sounds like it could have been a crossover hit dropped by some up-and-coming country starlet in the 60s. At least at the start of the song, because as Angel progresses in the track, she ramps up the emotional turmoil, and the song kind of gains a personality of its own. And the song continues to evolve as it progresses on. I love the angelic vocal harmonies toward the back end of the track and the beautiful pianos as well. For 7 minutes, Angel and her band just consistently whip out new musical ideas to keep the song interesting. However, we do have the song Those Were the Days, which has kind of a whisper quiet vocal delivery and a very breezy demeanor I don't really care for. And the closing track on here, Pops, has these basic piano chords that are played in this pitifully sad demeanor. The song doesn't feel like a tune as much as it does an emotional exorcism. If Angel hasn't wowed you by this point on the record, this song I don't think is going to sway you. I think whether or not you enjoy it is going to be heavily dependent on your preferences for the 9 tracks prior. I do prefer, though, the song Women that comes right before. A lot more emotional and compositional peaks and valleys throughout that song, in my opinion. All in all, not a bad record at all. I think it's one of the better singer-songwriter records of the year. Actually, it is the solid album that I have wanted Angel Olsen to drop all along, back when I first heard her music several years ago. And now it's finally here, so no reason to complain. All you can do at this point is listen, because it's catchy, it's fun, it's emotional, it's passionate, and it's probably worth crying to at some point. Yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that. I'm feeling a decent to strong 8 on this thing. Transition. Have you given this record a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best. You're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like. Please subscribe. And please don't cry if you happen to disagree with my thoughts on this record. Don't know why you would. It's good. Angel Olsen, my woman forever.